Good morning, my friends. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of PB Reads the Bible. Today is episode 8 on our journey through the book of Judges, which means we'll be finishing the story of Gideon today. We'll finish up. We'll finish up Gideon today. But anyway, I'm Brian, pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church. And just in case you didn't know that, I know many of you are been following right along right from the beginning. Thank you for that. Others have been joining or here and there throughout. That's also wonderful. And maybe some of you have only just joined us this past week or so, or even today. Wonderful. Thank you. This is the 11th book of the Bible that we've gone through. Excuse me, over the last year and a half. Not quite a year and a half, but getting close. So if you were interested in any that you missed, the videos are still all available. You have to work through it here on Facebook or go to YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel, and that would be the easiest way to find the videos. They'd be right there. So, Facebook lets me know how many people are watching or how many accounts are logged on, but doesn't tell me who you are. So go ahead and let me know. Do the check-in. Let me know that you're there. And even if you're not doing this live, because I know a lot of folks have to watch later today or might be watching this next week as a voice from the past for you or something. Go ahead and check in anyway, because I'll periodically go in and look just to see. And same thing for comments. If you have comments or questions, go ahead and leave them. Even if you're not watching live, I'll try to find them and get back to them. And if I miss them for some reason, let me know. You can always text me as well, 570-351-1619. Got some folks checking in. Good morning, Maureen. Good sunny morning. It's sunny here too. Not too bad. It's decently warm. Going to be soggy. It's a warm but soggy day was the prediction I just saw on my phone. 93% chance of rain this afternoon. Good morning, Marcia. Good to see you with us. And good morning, Cheryl. Ron, on live today. Woohoo! I'm better. Well, thank you very much, Ron. You can have breakfast a little bit late. It'd be like second breakfast for the Lord of the Rings fans out there. Good morning, Marilyn. Good to have you with us here as well. Wonderful. Keep doing that. Like I said, leave comments or questions. So I'll keep in mind Facebook doesn't always tell me them right away for some reason. Sometimes I'll go in later and I'll see that I missed a question. But it's usually because it didn't post it right away for some reason. I don't know. But if you see me look to the left, I'm checking on that stuff on the computer. And if you see me look to the right, I'm checking to see if anybody's sending me any texts or questions that way. Good morning, John and Cindy. Good to have the both of you here. And John, hope you're doing well. Hope you're continuing to improve. Cindy said you had a couple good days. Let's hope that continues. All right, so we've been going through the story. Well, we've been going through Judges, and we've been going through the story of Gideon. That's the last two chapters, 6 and 7, and those first 3 verses of chapter 8. I said just to finish off that piece of the story. And it would seem that that's where it should end. Gideon has done his job. God has delivered the people of Israel from their oppressors, and following the pattern that has been set in earlier stories in Judges, we expect there to be sort of an ending story, saying something like, and there was peace in the land, or Gideon served as a judge over the land, judged Israel for a period of 40 years. That's usually the number. And there was peace in the land. But it's not where Gideon's story ends. Why? Because we continue to see this downward spiral of Israel as a whole and of the individual judges. We've already mentioned some of the things that where Gideon has failed. He hasn't lived up to the ideal of a judge. Now we're going to see more of it. Okay, now we're going to see more of it. Then Gideon came to the Jordan and crossed over, he and the 300 who were with him, exhausted and famished. Pause. I should pause here and say, notice what has not been said. Notice what is not said in this verse or before this verse. Yahweh told him to cross the Jordan and chase after the escaping army. Nope, that's not in here. We will see we will see that Yahweh is absent in this story, in this part of the story, because Gideon is taking things on himself. So I'll reread 4. Then Gideon came to the Jordan and crossed over, he and the 300 who were with him, exhausted and famished. So he said to the people of Succoth, please give some loaves of bread to my followers, for they are exhausted, and I am pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian. But the officials of Succoth said, do you already have in your possession the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna, that we should give bread to your army? Gideon replied, well then, when Yahweh has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I will trample your flesh on the thorns of the wilderness and on briars. Pause. The NIV translates that a little bit differently. It says something about teach you a lesson by using thorns and briars. Continuing, from there he went up to Penuel and made the same request of them. And the people of Penuel answered him as the people of Succoth had answered. So he said to the people of Penuel, when I come back victorious, I will break down this tower. Pause. We don't know for sure. The author isn't specific and probably wants a little bit of that ambiguity in there. Who are the people who live in Succoth and Penuel? Are they Canaanites, or are they Israelites who live in the land beyond the Jordan, the land of Gad, I believe? It makes sense that it would be the Israelites who live beyond the Jordan, because there was the one tribe that had settled Succoth, unless they've lost it, but we're not told that. And Penuel is the name of the town that, well, Jacob had given that name to it as the place where he wrestled with God. So presumably they are Israelites, and they're Israelites being unhospitable to other Israelites. And again, he does say, when the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, but he also says, when I come back victorious, I will break down this tower. So there's a whole lot of I going on here. This is Gideon. This is the guy who was, fearful and submissive, we might say, or whatever, and untrusting and doubting his self and his ability as a military leader. But now ego seems to be growing in him substantially, and so he's claiming a whole bunch of credit and self-worth and all that kind of stuff here. He's also, notice I guess you would say, the punishments that he is saying he's going to inflict upon these people are definitely not equivalent to the supposed crime or the things that they have done to him. They mocked him. They mocked him. Oh, do you already have them in your possession? In other words, saying, you're probably not going to be able to catch up with those guys. Who do you think you are that you're going to beat those two kings, those two great kings? But he's saying what he's going to do to these people. It's far out, far and away, high above an equivalent to what they've done. Definitely not equivalent at all. Has echoes of the story of Lamech from Genesis, who said, "I killed a man for harming me, and if Cain is going to be avenged sevenfold, then I'm going to be avenged 77-fold." So it's a super heightening of revenge, This whole story seems to be a story of revenge too, so we'll get to that. Now, Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with their army, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of the people of the east. For 120,000 men bearing arms had fallen. So Gideon went up by the caravan route east of Nobah and Jogbeha and attacked the army, for the army was off its guard. Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them and took the two kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and threw all the army into a panic. When Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres, he caught a young man, one of the people of Succoth, and questioned him. And he listed for him the officials and elders of Succoth, 77 people. Then he came to the people of Succoth and said, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me, saying, 'Do you already have in your possession the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna, that we should give bread to your troops who are exhausted?'" So he took the elders of the city, and he took thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he trampled the people of Succoth. He also broke down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Pause. Wow. So, it's like, you mock me, I'm going to kill your whole town. Something is definitely going on. We can see that downward spiral. We can see the tragic decline in Gideon's person, in his personality, and in his faithfulness. We can see that all going by the wayside. Oh, hello, Joe. Okay, very far, definitely not equivalent. It's not eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I mean, he's all out vengeance. Wow. We're going to see more about this, that this whole thing has been about vengeance for Gideon. We're going to find out in this next paragraph. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, "What about the men whom you killed at Tabor?" They answered, "As you are, so were they, every one of them. They resembled the sons of a king." And he replied, "They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As Yahweh lives, if you had saved them alive, I would not kill you." So he said to Jether, his firstborn, "Go kill them." But the boy did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a boy. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, "You come and kill us. For as the man is, so is his strength." So Gideon proceeded to kill Zebah and Zalmunna, and he took the crescents that were on the necks of their camels. Pause. So we see that he chased these guys, not because God told him to, because God never told him to. He chased these guys because he wanted vengeance. That's certainly what it looks like, doesn't it? Certainly what it looks like. Now, some interesting stuff going on in here. He didn't, at first, he wasn't going to kill them himself. He wanted to make his son do it. Now, but his son, it would seem, is almost like a chip off the old block. He didn't do it because he was afraid, as Gideon had started out being afraid. As Gideon had started out being afraid. And Gideon's doing a lot of things wrong here. He was supposed to have mercy on these guys. God didn't tell him to, God certainly didn't tell him to kill them. He should have had mercy on them based on laws in Deuteronomy and stuff like that. He also, because of those same laws in Deuteronomy, he's done something wrong here, and we're going to find out that the rest of his guys did basically the same thing wrong in the next paragraph. We'll find out. They've taken all kind of loot, including gold. And he has taken this gold. In particular, he's taken the crescents that were on the necks of the camels. Those were symbols of kingship. Those are symbols of kingship. And he took them for himself. He took them for himself. So we can see something's, ooh, what's going to happen? We can see some stuff is not right. Not right. And this next paragraph is really going to bring it home. Really going to bring it home. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you and your son and your grandson also, for you have delivered us out of the hand of Midian." Pause. Although they don't specifically use the word king, they use a word meaning rule. They are trying to set up a dynasty, not just you, but you, your son, and your grandson. So it's leaning towards kingship. Certainly leaning towards kingship. That's what they want. And why? Because you have delivered us out of the hands of Midian. Oh, what did God say at the back near the, at the beginning of this battle, before this battle started? Oh, you've got too many troops. We've got to dwindle that down, because otherwise Israel will think they did it themselves. Excuse me. So exactly what God was afraid was going to happen is what happens. They're given all the credit now to Gideon. They're not mentioning God at all. Gideon said to them, "I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. Yahweh will rule over you." Oh, pause. Well, that sounds good. He didn't say, "Oh, it wasn't me. Give God credit for delivering you." No, he didn't. But he seems to be saying, "I'm not going to be your king. Yahweh will be your king." So what's he mean? What's he mean? That sounds pretty good. Then Gideon said to them, "Let me make a request of you. Each of you give me an earring he has taken as booty." For the enemy had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. "We will willingly give them," they answered. So they spread a garment, and each threw into it an earring he had taken as booty. The weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, apart from the crescents and the pendants and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian and the collars that were on the necks of their camels. Pause. So that's reminding the reader of all the things that Gideon took, and he didn't use any of his stuff. This is all the gold that he got from their contribution of their booty toward him. Gideon made an ephod of it and put it in his town in Ophrah, and all Israel prostituted themselves to it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and to his family. So Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and they lifted up their heads no more. So the land had rest 40 years in the days of Gideon. Pause. So what does he do with this gold? He melts it down and he turns it into an ephod. What's an ephod? An ephod is this thing that usually, like it was described in Exodus, worn around the neck and stuff like that. But it's used for oracle purposes, for oracular purposes, to get messages from God and figure out what it is that God wants. But notice what's really taking place. Notice what's really taking place. Who else said, "Give me your gold earrings that you have collected"? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Excuse me. Moses' brother Aaron, after the Israelites had come out of Egypt, and while they were there on the bottom of Mount Sinai waiting for Moses to come down. And what did he do with it? He melted the gold down and turned it into an idol, into the golden calf, and said, "Here is your God who delivered you." Right? without the exact same words, the same thing is taking place here. He's taking the gold that they got from booty, melted it down, turned it into an idol. It's an ephod rather than a golden calf, but it's still an idol. They begin to worship it. They prostrate themselves before, prostituted themselves to it there. You know, the author doesn't go into details since it's used as an oracular device, something that's used to communicate stuff like that. Gideon is turning himself into a priest, for one thing, but he also could be being a king without being a king. He could be saying that things are coming from the oracle when he's really pulling the strings as far as what those decisions are. But, you know, or not, he's just completely abandoning his role as leader. That could be the other thing as well. But the point is, how did this story start off with him? As a person who tore down an idol and an altar. And here he's making an idol instead, which becomes this trap. Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went to live in his own house. Now Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, for he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. Then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash at Ophrah of the Abiezerites. As soon as Gideon died, the Israelites relapsed and prostituted themselves with the Baals, making Baal Berith their god. The Israelites did not remember Yahweh their God, who had rescued them from the hand of all their enemies on every side. And they did not exhibit loyalty to the house of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in return for all the good that he had done to Israel. End of chapter 4. End of the story of Gideon. And we can see it's not as glorious an end to his story as to the prior judges. The endings of their stories were much better. His not so much. The land is in better condition than it was when he started, but certainly doesn't end all that well. Anyway, my friends, thank you for joining me today, or whenever it is you're joining. Do pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you've learned something in the conversation, something we've read, something I've said as you go about your days, not just today, but every day. Keep those eyes and ears open for what our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say thank you, and then tell somebody about it. Okay? Until we meet again, people.